Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam and this is my April landscape walk around video. Not a lot has been done here in the last month. I've added maybe 10 or 12 pieces that you guys have seen the videos for. I've overseeded with fescue and done a few maintenance things here. You see most of it. I shoot videos for most of it. So we won't have a lot of new additions to show, but I have a lot of things that need to be done in this yard right this second, and I think it will be helpful to you to see some of those little pruning things that need to be done and how I'll go about that. We had a super cold March following a super warm February, which was very strange because it got all the flowering trees blooming early. And then because it was so cool in March, they all stayed blooming the entire month. I've never seen the redbuds and dogwoods and plums and cherries and things last week after week after week. Even the Bradford pears looked good this spring, which I don't grow, don't sell, don't recommend. It's invasive. Please do not plant that tree anywhere. They come up in the woods all over the place and they can outgrow anything in your area. I plant some things in this yard and I have videos for things in this yard of, things that people would consider invasive that'll come up here and there, but I don't think there's anything right this minute a bigger threat to our native wooded spaces and grassy spaces than Bradford pears. So just keep that in mind, even though they were beautiful this spring. Another thing, if you guys don't live in the Southeast United States or have no experience ever having been here during pine pollen season, right this second, all of the pine trees in my area and pretty much throughout the Southeast are dropping pollen, and they've been doing it for 4 or 5 days, and everything is just covered in yellow. And we live with this every spring, and everyone you just hope. Tomorrow we're supposed to get thunderstorms. We have a 70% chance of rain, and you just want that rain right at the peak of that pollen to wash it away, but you'll get to see some of that. I didn't clean it up on purpose so that you could see how really thick and nasty this stuff actually is, and what we kind of live with for a few weeks here with these pine trees around us. So anyway, let's get walking around. So month over month, the white garden has probably had the least amount of changes. I still have one flower left on this star magnolia. The Oakleaf Hydrangea here is starting to leaf out. That West Coast Laurel is starting to put some new growth on, and the trees are waking up. They should have been pretty much completely awake, but this Japanese Snowbell here is waking up. The Chinese Fringe tree is starting to wake up, and it'll flower pretty soon, but it's budded up and ready to go. Japanese maple's leafing out. This weeping redbud has just continued to be beautiful. And look, the flowers are all the way down to the ground. I shot another redbud video a couple days ago. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, these things bloom on the oldest growth all the way up to the newest growth. And this weeping one is beautiful. This flowering cherry really was blooming the entire month of March and still has a few flowers on it now, but it's leafed out nicely. All of these perennials, which I've said in a couple videos that I'm moving, I've just been kind of overwintering them here. If you'll notice how these things wake up, they'll kind of tell you where they need to be pruned. You can just prune them down to where the new growth is coming back out right there, and just clean off that dead stuff. There's another plant up here, a viburnum up here in this corner that I had pointed out in a video about winter damaged plants, and I said this viburnum's alive. I don't know where it's going to come out from, but when I see it coming out, I'll know where to prune it. And as you can see right here, exactly like I pointed out, this is what it's doing. It's coming out from there, so I think from there up it's dead. So in the next few days I'll get in here and clean it up, but it's telling me where to prune it. And over here, these white wedding hydrangeas, which were covered in flowers in the fall when I put them in, doing the same exact thing. You can see where that new growth is coming right there. I'll just cut these dead flower heads just to right there, and those will be cleaned up nicely, but all three of those are coming out right there. On the bulbs here in the little pansy bed that we did in the fall, I just deadheaded all the hyacinths here and the daffodils that had bloomed out, but I'm leaving the foliage. It needs that foliage Don't ever cut that stuff off to the ground if you're planning on keeping those bulbs. But the pansies did a little bit of growing in March. These will be here for about another month, and then they'll be flipped over to summer annuals. I put up a video in late January or early February on maintaining hellebores, and I cut these back pretty drastically. I took out all the old growth on them. There just wasn't much left here, and they've gone absolutely crazy. I fertilized them at the same time, and all this new growth is beautiful. It's been able to put the energy into putting on new growth and flowers for a couple months now, instead of maintaining that old foliage. So that works quite effectively. These autumn twist Encore Azaleas are budded up and about to bloom. They should be in bloom the next time I do one of these videos. This clematis is growing, probably not as much as it would have if it had been 80 degrees in March instead of 50. I put this Ajuga here. It's just kind of in holding, but it's got the purple flowers coming on it. And there's another one over here, a green variety, that's in bloom now. It's going to end up in too much sun in that space, so it'll have to be moved, but it looks great right now. These baby gem boxwoods look quite nice. That one was a little bit bigger when I put it in, so he's jumped ahead a little bit, but I'll get them all pruned to the same size and shape. All of my annual pots here and all the decorative things look pretty good right now. I want to show you this pollen on this front porch, which is just, that's all pollen stuck to the front porch. Even Holly's bed needs to be cleaned here. She doesn't even want to be out here today. My lettuce bowls continue to look very good. Had a salad there from a couple nights ago and really had to wash it very well with the pollen all over it. This bed is starting to come to life. All these phlox are starting to bloom. A couple things here still need to be moved. These tulips are really quite beautiful. I used two different blends, and I really didn't know or didn't really think about the fact that they'd end up different heights. So that's been a little bit weird. But these doubles, man, are they beautiful. That white one with the pink in it and this purple one, when these open up, really beautiful. I kind of like, maybe I do like that layered look. At first I thought it was going to be weird, but it does make them kind of fuller. But these autumn fire Encore Azaleas have purple foliage. That's their winter color. That happened because it got so cold last month. This sunshine Ligustrum is so showy from such a long distance away. And these phlox up here on the corner are blooming as well. Going back this way, you see my forest pansy Redbud, how spectacular this tree is. And next month you'll see it with all the new purple foliage on it. The burning bush right here have come out nicely. They're always so beautiful in the spring with that light green foliage on them. I did a video the other day on putting this Tamukeyama Japanese maple in that container, and these Pittosporum were planted here. Rather than plant these things directly across the porch here, I put them in at this angle. I'm going to put something in here that's a little bit taller and have some lower growing things out here, just as a different way to lay it out rather than just putting 3 pieces straight across there and 3 pieces in front of there, you know, just like that. I think it will be a little more interesting. Hopefully it'll be a little more interesting. Going back this way, the blueberries from the blueberry video last month are, some of them are leafing out. Actually, all of them are leafing out in some stage. This taller one right here is really taking off pretty quickly. I don't know how well you'll be able to see. Back over here, I put this Redbud in, the purple flowers back there just a couple of days ago. It's still so small that it can hardly be seen. So we'll just walk all the way up to it. This is that Dawn Egolf Redbud. Really is going to be a nice tree. I've got an Oklahoma Redbud. I'll put that video up next week. That's going to go over here as well. It's another upright variety. This is a Viburnum called Viburnum Cree. I have actually already shot that video. It'll be up in the next couple days. It gets really, really nice flowers. It's a kind of a more hardy leatherleaf Viburnum. Not a whole lot has changed on this side. These Nandinas continue to be kind of asleep because it's got so cold during March. These autumn Bonfire azaleas over here that I put in the fall are coming into flower right now. I've already sold through these a couple times at the garden center. This is the one everybody's going to want this year, but you can see it coming into bloom for the first time this year. Really beautiful red flowers on that variety. Turf looks great. The fescue that I overseeded it with has started to germinate. Probably needs a little bit of rain on it, and we're supposed to get some here in the next couple days. This Cryptomeria looks good. It's got some new growth on it. I started to prep the ground here. I took out the turf that I needed to take out to build this little propagation greenhouse, and then we'll get on that pretty soon. Again, the turf's looking pretty good here. My dogwood here is in full bloom. This was a seedling dogwood. And look at the base of this thing. This thing actually came up in that space, just volunteered, and it's really just kind of taken over this space over time. It's really, really beautiful. It blooms for a long time, but it picked the space it wanted to be in. This is that Thundercloud Plum up here. It still has a few flowers left on it, but it was really spectacular for 3 or 4 weeks and during the video last month. I just forgot to show it. And then all the other things back here in this corner, the tripod is sitting right there. Everything in this corner is looking fantastic. This is an odd looking Alyssium right here right now, but there's going to be a path that goes here and around there, and I have a bunch of shade perennials that go in here. I already have them here at the house. I just haven't gotten around to doing those yet. There's a Pieris here. It was in bloom, I think, the same time last month and still going strong. These Marvel Mahonia are just the coolest right here. If you can find this plant, I definitely highly recommend that plant. It has been blooming for 2.5 months. Now I planted them, I guess, some 6 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, but I actually had them in my possession for several weeks before that. They were blooming the entire time. That soft caress Mahonia is beautiful. I put these Elaeagnus in here, these Olive Martini Elaeagnus. There's a Bluebird Hydrangea that's just waking up right there. Over here, this is an azalea from my grandfather's funeral. Somebody gave at that funeral. I don't know the variety. It was actually a florist azalea. There's so many varieties of old-fashioned azaleas, I probably never will know the variety, but it's the only one that I have. So this year, as part of the propagation series, I definitely want to propagate this plant. And I actually am thinking about, you guys can tell me if you're interested, if you live in the Southeast and you're interested in having one of these, after we get them propagated, I'd like to send them out to other places so that this is not the only one sitting in the ground anywhere. If you are interested in getting one of those azaleas later, I'll just send it out to you for free once we figure out. I'm going to root about maybe 50 or 60 of them and see if I can distribute them far and wide. So there's a quick tour of the yard. Looks fantastic. I probably didn't make as much progress as I would like to have had made this month. I've got a lot of pieces at the garden center, in my garage, on the driveway where I didn't show you. Lots and lots of pieces to go in. So I hope this month can be very productive and it will warm up at some point. Actually, this Saturday we have a little snowflake on the forecast for April 7th. April 7th snow. That'll be interesting here in southeastern North Carolina. So thank you very much for watching this video and watching all the videos and participating and commenting and liking the videos and all those things that you guys do. I went over 10,000 subscribers this past week, which was kind of exciting. So again, thank you very much.